and welcome to Berklee's Global Connection Series Masterclass titled The Significance of Today's K-Pop Industry. My name is Tim Lee, and I'm the Associate Director of International Recruitment, overseeing global recruitment work at the college. 안녕하세요. 오늘 버클리 교수진이 말하는 K-팝의 현주소라는 제목으로 진행되는 글로벌 커넥션 시리즈 마스터 클래스에 참여하신 여러분들 환영합니다. 방금 보신 공연 영상은 버클리 재학생 및 졸업생들이 커버한 K-팝 퍼포먼스였습니다. 제 이름은 팀 리라고 하고요. 저는 버클리 음대에서 국제학생 유치 업무를 총괄하고 있습니다. Today's event is sponsored by our Berklee Global partner, CJ Cultural Foundation, who has been instrumental in being a generous donor and a partner in support of Korean students studying at Berklee for more than a decade. 오늘 마스터 클래스는 지난 10여 년간 버클리를 진학하는 재능 있는 한국 학생들에게 장학금을 지원함과 더불어 음악인으로서 꿈을 이룰 수 있도록 지속적인 도움을 주고 있는 버클리 음대의 글로벌 파트너인 CJ 문화재단의 후원으로 진행됩니다. Berklee faculty Hae Joo Kim and Jonathan Perkins will be sharing their experience and perspective on K-pop music industry today. Hae Joo Kim is an assistant chair of professional music with an expertise in K-pop culture and music industry. And Mr. Perkins is assistant chair of Songwriting Department, who has worked with Grammy-winning artists and K-pop acts alike. 프로페셔널 뮤직 학과의 부학과장님이신 김혜주 교수님과 성라이팅의 부학과장님이신 조나탄 퍼킨스 교수님께서 오늘 마스터 클래스를 통하여 버클리 교수진의 관점에서 보는 K-팝 산업에 대한 해석 및 여러 경험담들을 나누어 주시도록 하겠습니다. There will be a Q&A session at the end of the event, so please feel free to send us questions via chat window. 프레젠테이션이 끝난 후에 질문을 받는 시간이 있으니 챗 윈도우로 질문을 보내주시기 바랍니다. Without further ado, here's Hae Joo Kim to kick off the presentation. 먼저 김혜주 교수님께서 진행하시도록 하겠습니다.
Thank you, Mr. Tim Lee. Can everybody hear me? Okay, great. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Just bear with me here. Okay, so I think we're in business, right? Okay, all right. Okay, so thank you and hello from Boston, everyone. Thank you for joining us. The rise and growth of Korean pop culture around the world in recent years has been tremendous, with K-pop receiving particular attention recently. In today's session, I'd like to take a look at K-pop's wide reach and some of the marks that it's made along the way before briefly introducing the professional music department at Berklee. When K-pop started out more than 20 years ago, culture critics and analysts thought that it would be a passing fad. Many were skeptical, thinking that it was just a Korean thing or an Asian thing with limited appeal, and that it would probably disappear as maybe a footnote in world music. But as I talk to you today, BTS and Blackpink are among the hottest music groups around the world, and it's very clear that K-pop has become a global phenomenon. With over 20 years of history now, and many notable achievements, K-pop has gained wide recognition to the extent that people no longer ask the question, what is K-pop? I do still, however, hear the question, why K-pop, as it moves from awareness to acknowledgement and on to broader acceptance. Why is K-pop so popular? What makes it stand out? And how does it keep attracting global audiences? So I want to take a moment to revisit some aspects that distinguish K-pop and that have continued, that have contributed to its popularity. K-pop is, of course, very visual. It often comes with slick choreography or a signature dance move that you can imitate. This makes it perfect for visual platforms like YouTube. In fact, K-pop songs don't just come with a music video. The songs are the music video. In terms of the music itself, K-pop is often very catchy and thus accessible to a wide audience. It also invokes a range of music genres, from rock to rap to pop to EDM, R&B, disco, and so on. K-pop is multi-genre, sometimes even in one song, And in this sense, it is, excuse me, actually difficult to pin K-pop itself as a genre. And K-pop is really a whole package. The music is good, but it's beyond just music. It's music, dance, choreography, fashion, storytelling, a multifaceted art form that gives you a comprehensive experience. And because of its highly visual nature and consistently high production value, it thrives on the internet. And perhaps most importantly, K-pop is participatory. It really is driven by the fandom. And I think this is one of the very special aspects of its culture. Fans can participate on many levels beyond simply listening to the music or following a song's dance moves. K-pop artists are highly active on social media, and this has been crucial to their popularity, as this interaction reduces the barrier between artist and audience, essentially nurturing relationships rather than marketing to fans in any one-directional fashion. These are some of the characteristics that have propelled K-pop to increasing visibility, awareness, and recognition in the global pop music arena. They speak to creativity, incredibly hard work, and consistently high production standards, as well as evolution of technology. While there are many K-pop groups enjoying immense popularity at the moment, two of the biggest are Blackpink and BTS. So I will review just a few of their achievements, starting with Blackpink, who debuted in 2016. Since their debut, Blackpink has quickly joined the Billion Views Club. Currently, at least 3 of their hits have over 1 billion views on YouTube. That's 1 billion. Blackpink also recently held the Guinness World Record for the most views within 24 hours on YouTube with their song How You Like That, which generated over 86 million hits within a day of its release. This record was broken by another K-pop group, BTS, this summer. Blackpink was also the first K-pop girl group to play Coachella last year, one of the biggest music festivals in the world. And they've also performed on several mainstream American television programs, including Jimmy Kimmel Live, The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, and Good Morning America. Now on to BTS. Here's a quick review of the reach that BTS has had in the American mainstream. BTS has been on The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon more than once. They were guests in 2018 and again this year, twice this year, once before the pandemic, and more recently this fall, just last month, for a 1-week-long residency, of course, remotely. And that's the group and Jimmy Fallon at Grand Central Station in New York, where they filmed earlier this year before the pandemic. Last year, BTS performed on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. The show takes place in the theater where the Beatles famously made their American debut in 1964. BTS is often compared to the Beatles in their popularity and worldwide fandom. And here you see the comparison and the homage paid to the Beatles, with BTS in suits and in black and white. In 2017, they were on Jimmy Kimmel Live as well, another very popular mainstream program. BTS performed on Saturday Night Live in 2019. They were on Carpool Karaoke with James Corden in 2020, this year, just before the pandemic. And they were invited on The Ellen Show twice, once in 2017 and again in 2018. BTS was the first Korean act to perform at the Grammys earlier this year with Lil Nas X, here performing Old Town Road. They were the first K-pop act to present at the Grammys in 2019, and there is much talk and anticipation about their Grammy prospects for the coming year. And here they are performing with Charlie Puth, who is actually a graduate of Berklee. BTS has filled incredibly large stadiums. This is their concert at the Rose Bowl last year, a stadium with a capacity of 90,000 seats. This concert was sold out. And their concert at the iconic Wembley Stadium in London, also last year. BTS was the first Korean band to perform at Wembley Stadium. This concert also sold out in 90 minutes. Currently, BTS is not only the hottest K-pop group in the world, they are arguably the hottest pop act in the world. Since forming in 2013, BTS has amassed an incredible following and continues to break new ground as it breaks new records. They've charted on the Billboard 200 chart 4 times thus far, and they're the first group since the Beatles to have 3 #1 albums on this chart in less than a year. They've won the Favorite Social Artist Award at the American Music Awards in 2018, beating out artists like Cardi B, Ariana Grande, Demi Lovato, Shawn Mendes. And they've also won the Top Social Artist Award at the Billboard Music Awards for the past 4 years. BTS holds the record for the most YouTube views within a 24-hour period, breaking Blackpink's record this summer with the song Dynamite, which gained over 100 million views within 24 hours of its release. And they've been invited to speak at the United Nations General Assembly twice, once in 2018 and again this year. Their music carries a positive message of self-love and of embracing yourself and your identity, which has resonated with people of all walks and ages all across the globe. And you see here that they were featured on the cover of Time magazine in 2018. BTS has about 20 million followers on Twitter, and they hold the Guinness World Record for most Twitter engagement. To give you an idea of this activity, this is a map created by Nicole Santero, who is currently conducting research on BTS fandom for her PhD. The map shows the BTS related Twitter activity in March of this year when they released their music video for Black Swan. And as you can see, the fandom is really very global. It's spread out across the map, not concentrated in one geographical area. BTS fans, called ARMY, really reflect a diverse cross-section of race, ethnicity, nationality, gender, and age. And I like to animate this map just one more time as I tell you to look for that one dot at the bottom of the map in Antarctica. It's there, and I'll animate it just one more time. Right there. So there you have it in Antarctica. This map shows the Twitter activity around the Match a Million campaign in June of this year, after BTS donated $1 million to the Black Lives Matter movement. Within a day, BTS fans matched that amount to donate $1 million of their own to Black Lives Matter. But of all their achievements, charting #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 chart is one of their most significant, as this chart is an important indicator of mainstream popularity. BTS made history when Dynamite took #1 on the Hot 100 chart. They are the first Korean artist to do so. The song, released in August, enjoyed 7 straight weeks on the Hot 100 chart, including 3 times at the #1 spot. At this point, I'd like to recall another famous Korean pop hit that we all know, Gangnam Style. When Psy's Gangnam Style came out in 2012, a lot of people thought that the song would hit #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 chart. The song went viral and made history as the first video to surpass the 1 billion mark on YouTube. It had a huge cultural impact. It generated endless cover versions and was referenced in all corners excuse me, of the media. Gangnam Style did chart on the Billboard Hot 100, but at the height of its popularity, it only went up to #2. This left some people puzzled and some frustrated as to why it did not reach #1, because the song was clearly so popular. It had the most YouTube views, the most downloads, and the best numbers in other categories as well. But the song was missing one crucial element, and that was radio airplay. Charting on the Billboard Hot 100 at the time was based not only on sales, but also and significantly on radio airplay. That was a problem for Psy because as viral as Gangnam Style was on YouTube, it did not get enough radio play. Mainstream American radio stations just did not play it as much as other songs that were popular at the time. So although Gangnam Style topped several other charts, the social chart, download chart, sales chart, it did not hit #1 on the Hot 100 chart because it lacked the radio numbers. And largely due to this situation, Billboard reconsidered their methodology and decided to give a heavier weight to digital sales and also began to include YouTube views in their calculations. 2013 then was the year that streaming officially became unignorable. Currently, the formula for charting on the Hot 100 includes radio airplay, sales, and streaming. So the popularity of Gangnam Style had an impact on the reformulation of metrics for the Billboard Hot 100 chart. This paved the way for other musical artists that followed, artists that use YouTube heavily, including other K-pop acts. And it paved the way for a group like BTS to reach #1. While something like the reformulation of chart metrics points to a practical impact, on the American side, there's also been an increasing openness to diversity in the pop cultural landscape in recent years. And in this sense, the awareness and growing acceptance of K-pop is also met with good timing. As a quick example, I point to the Korean film Parasite from 2019. Parasite is the first non-English language film to win an Academy Award for Best Picture, among others. Director Bong Joon-ho famously remarked at one of the award ceremonies this year that, quote, "Once you overcome the 1-inch tall barrier of subtitles, you will be introduced to so many more amazing films," end quote. He challenged the American public, which generally does not like reading subtitles for foreign films, to go beyond that small barrier. And Parasite made history this year, winning the several Oscars that it did. I draw on Parasite's success because I think that it and the increasing visibility of K-pop in the American market intersects with the current climate of diversity in the US, apart from the fact that it really is an excellent film worthy of the award. While the conversation surrounding diversity has always been important in this country, it's grown more significant in recent years, with particular intensity this year, whether at colleges, universities, and academic societies that are reconsidering curriculum and programming, or in professional associations, institutions, and organizations. It speaks to changing demographics and the evolution of tastes, as well as a sharpening awareness of bias and exclusion. In a sense, the American market is more ready to welcome and acknowledge Korean and other non-Euro-American offerings than it was just 10 or 15 years ago. Such a climate facilitates the continuing advance of K-pop in the American market, and a win like Parasite's at the Academy Awards, or a smaller scale achievement like BTS charting #1 on the Billboard Hot 100, signal both quality of product and an increasing diversity in the mainstream American market. As K-pop continues to make a mark in the American industry, we also began to see more collaborations. American artists who have worked with K-pop groups thus far include Halsey, Nicki Minaj, Ed Sheeran, Diplo, Steve Aoki, Sia, Jason Derulo, Becky G, Selena Gomez, and Lady Gaga, just to name a few. And others have expressed interest in working with K-pop artists, including Shawn Mendes, Tinashe, and even Dolly Parton. Partnerships are also growing. Last year in 2019, SM Entertainment debuted Super M, a group formed with members from some of K-pop's most popular groups, including EXO, SHINee, NC127, and Wavy, in partnership with Capitol Music Group here in Hollywood. The group has been immensely popular and has already charted #1 on the Billboard 200 chart, with the largest debut sales by a K-pop act. The usual pillars surrounding the professional community also continue to grow, with regular media coverage on various media platforms and channels, from trade magazines to mainstream media outlets. Developments in K-pop and K-pop-related stories are frequently covered in Billboard, Rolling Stone, Forbes, the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Wall Street Journal, NPR, CNN, BBC, Complex, Vox, Vulture, and so on. And there are now reporters who are known as quote unquote K-pop journalists. And finally, excuse me, K-pop advances in making a mark with innovative technology and design. Expanding beyond high quality content, it now draws attention to the delivery of this content. K-pop agencies were already developing and experimenting with augmented reality and virtual reality to enhance the musical experience well before COVID hit and changed the world. So if K-pop as a culture was not exactly prepared to deal with the pandemic, it was at least very well positioned. During the COVID era, while most musicians around the world had to stop all activity, Big Hit Entertainment and SM Entertainment have produced live streaming concerts with great success, showing not only the possibility of holding concert activity in this restricted environment, but also showing its rich potential for new and alternative experiences. And once the world is past the pandemic, these technologically enhanced concert experiences will likely stay, not to replace live performances, of course, but as a complement to them. And as a leader in this area, the case of K-pop can serve as a model that influences other music industries around the globe. In these ways, K-pop and Korean pop music broadly continues to impact the global pop music community as it makes its mark on the American and the larger music industries. As such, it is writing, or at least informing, a new chapter in the history of American pop music. And if I may just take a moment here to talk personally, I will say that it's been a special thrill to see these exciting developments in Korean music in recent years. When I came to the United States in the 1970s, there was practically no Asian representation in popular music or pop culture. Maybe there were some Western classical musicians, but practically nothing visibly in the mainstream American media. So to see rich talent coming out of Korea and dynamic music and content coming from these artists is both fascinating and gratifying. And we are eager to welcome talented students from Korea here at Berklee, who will take us into the next chapter of Korean music. So I'll spend my last few minutes saying a few words about Berklee and about my department. As a leading institution of contemporary music, Berklee embraces diversity on many levels. For one, it celebrates a diverse range of musical genres. I think of the multi-genre of K-pop and how Berklee is really an ideal place in this regard, where students are exposed to and trained in many diverse styles of music. Also, and importantly, Berklee is a global and outward-facing school. About 1/3 of our student population are international students. And Berklee graduates work in music industries across all corners of the globe, including Korea. And with that, here's just a short list of some Korean musicians who have come through Berklee in the past. Saxophonist and big band leader, Chung Sung-jo, who is one of the first Koreans to enroll at Berklee back in the 1970s. Composer and singer-songwriter, Kim Dong-ryul. Singer and lovely vocalist, Chang Ye-jin. And the famous and extraordinary Psy, of course. The singer Yang Pa. We have the rocker and musical theater artist, Sung Tak. Of course, Park Bom from 2NE1. Composer and producer Yoon Sang. And of course, Kenzie, one of SM Entertainment's secret weapons. Kenzie has written songs for BoA, Kangta, Girls' Generation, Super Junior, FX, EXO, among others. Okay, so I'd like to introduce just a bit about the professional music department, or the pro music as we call it, at Berklee. So what is the pro music major? The pro music major is designed to provide students with the opportunity to choose their own path of study while also developing the practical skills needed for a career in music. So simply put, it's a course of study that allows flexibility in choosing your own academic path. And with an understanding that music professionals need to be skilled in both the artistic and the administrative and business aspects in today's music industry, it focuses on entrepreneurship while encouraging creativity. And one final point, pro music is one of the most popular majors at Berklee. And additionally, many of Berklee's award-winning graduates of Emmys and Grammys are pro music alumni. So what will I study in pro music? The 3 bullets on the bottom reflect the curriculum shared across the college. So the core music, liberal arts, and general electives, these are the curricula that the departments share. The 2 bold bullets at the top are specific to the pro music course of study, which includes performing, music business, production, and marketing, among others. And the second bullet, where it says concentration, this is what makes pro music unique. In addition to the pro music core courses, students can choose up to 3 areas of concentration that they want to study. So please don't be alarmed. I will not read everything on this slide. This is just to give you a glimpse of the concentrations that you can take as a pro music major. This is a partial list, and if you're interested in taking a closer look at these concentrations, you can find them on the pro music page, the department page on the Berklee website. But as you can see, just from a quick glimpse, there's composition, there's music history, there's private studio teaching, performance. So there are a lot of options. So in general, what pro music offers? It offers flexibility and structure while letting you explore varied interests. It also offers an applied understanding of the music industry. And overall, it supports your individualized preferences, allowing you to define your path as a musician. And so this program is especially ideal for students who have varying interests or competing interests. What can you do with a major in pro music? And the answer is virtually anything. There is no set career path in pro music. Pro music majors go on to become active in all aspects of the music industry, as performers, composers, arrangers, songwriters, producers, teachers. They work on both the commercial and creative sides. They work on stage as well as behind the scenes. So you can come to pro music with the clear idea of what you want to be at the end of your 4 years here, and you can align your courses to build toward that goal. Or you can come into the program with not having a clear idea of what you want to be and explore a combination of courses as you progress. Again, there's no one career path that this major leads to, which is why I think it's one of the most popular majors at the school. And so with that, I think I'm out of time. So to find out more, I will say that you can just search professional music or pro music on the school's website to see a little bit more of the basic information about the department. And I'll end it here by saying that at Berklee, we are very excited about the Korean presence, and we welcome the talented students coming from Korea. We look forward to working with you, to supporting your musical studies, and to providing you with rich musical and academic experiences so that you will be well prepared and well positioned to take advantage of the increasing opportunities in the global music industry today. Thank you. And with that, I will toss it back to Mr. Tim Lee.
All right, thank you very much, Hae Joo, for your wonderful presentation. And now I want to invite Jonathan Perkins to share his insight on K-pop music production. So, 김혜주 교수님 좋은 말씀 오늘 감사드리고요. 다음은 Jonathan Perkins 교수님 나오셔서 K-pop 프로덕션에 대해서 나누어 주시겠습니다. Jonathan?
Great, thank you, Tim. And Hae Joo, that was awesome. Everybody kind of give up a virtual stadium shout for Hae Joo. Ah, great. And as a great segue from pro music into songwriting, as it turns out, a very famous pro music major who became a songwriter, at least famous within the industry, was a young man by the name of Claude Kelly. He and I went to Berklee at the same time. He ended up writing Party in the USA for Miley Cyrus. He wrote Grenade for Bruno Mars. He wrote My Life Would Suck Without You for Kelly Clarkson. So the pro music major offers quite a bit to future to people who are aspiring to be in the music industry, and songwriting is definitely a career path that many of them have taken and have gone on to be successful. So with that, we're going to take a little look at something that I did with BTS. My work with BTS was through one of their main producers that I like to credit with helping to bring them over. His name is DJ Swivel. His real name is Jordan Young. And Swivel produced and wrote a lot of one of their first albums, the album that had Euphoria on it, which is what we're going to take a look at in a minute. And he had just previously worked with the Chainsmokers. I did a little bit of work with the Chainsmokers also through him. And he had started out as a mix engineer. He had mixed Don't Let Me Down with the Chainsmokers featuring Dea. He mixed Closer for the Chainsmokers, which was a magnanimous hit, #1 for almost like half the year that it came out. It was insane. And then he started doing more production with them by the time they got to their Memories Do Not Open album, which is when I jumped in on it. And that's when they did the songs like Paris, Something Just Like This, and then he went on to produce a lot of that. So it was right around that time where Jordan started doing a lot of work with Big Hit Entertainment, right, the company behind BTS. And I personally think or believe and feel that a lot of those first records that broke in the United States kind of had a little bit of that Chainsmokers influence in it. So then my involvement is this. So then they have a pretty massive hit with Euphoria, and then Jordan wanted to do something with that song as a gift to the fans of BTS. And I guess the way I learned how he wanted to create this gift for BTS fans was that evidently every year there is a celebration of the day that BTS formed, right? And so then they'll do something special on that day every year. So the gift this year was something that actually Jordan and my old team was used to doing with a big hit record, which was to create like an acoustic version or a softer version, or what we would call the candlelight version. So you take the same vocals from the hit song, and then you rearrange it with piano and maybe some strings to make it sound really beautiful and more like a ballad as opposed to the heavy-hitting up-tempo dance song that it was. This is something that we started as a tradition all the way back when we had our first hit record together, which was called Down by Jay Sean. We were actually on the charts the same time as Party in the USA with Miley Cyrus with Claude, so that was a nice kind of thing for us to all enjoy together. So we were in a tradition of taking these hit songs and then doing a more beautiful arrangement under them to kind of heighten the fan interest behind the song and give them like another little gift, another little taste to make them excited and want to engage with the group. So we decided we were going to do this with Euphoria, and I'm going to play it. I'm going to play some of it for you first, just so you can get a sense of it. So what I will do now is share. Which screen can I share? I have a lot of screens up right now. Here we go. Share computer sound. Everybody see this? Yes? Good, thumbs? Yeah? All right. So here it is. This says DJ Swivel Forever Mixed, Euphoria, and these are Jungkook's vocals. Piano and strings are me, and Swivel kind of produced it out. And here's a little bit of it.
너는 내 삶에 다시 뜬 햇빛 어린 시절 내 꿈들의 재림 모르겠어 이 감정이 뭔지 혹시 여기도 꿈속인 건지 꿈은 사막의 푸른 신기루 난 깊은 곳에 아프리오리 숨이 막힐 듯이 행복해져 주변이 점점 더 투명해져 저기 멀리서 바다가 들려 꿈을 건너서 숲을 너머로 선명해지는 그곳으로 가 Take my hands now my euphoria. Yeah, 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 yeah. Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Euphoria. Yeah, 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 yeah. Close the door now. When I'm with you, I'm in utopia. 모두 나처럼 지워진 꿈을 찾아.
Okay, I'll take a pause there. So there's a taste of it, right? And the first step in doing a reproduction of this is they give you the what we call the acapellas, right? Which that's just the vocals all by themselves. So let's go ahead and open up the session. So what you're going to see is the actual session where this stuff was, where everything was put together, right? You're going to see the separate string tracks and the piano track and the separate vocals. So I'll share that with you now. And here it is. So up here in the green are the vocals. You'll see there's 4 tracks. They gave me 4 different vocals. We call them stems, okay? And then all this blue stuff from here and all the way down there is all my different strings that I decided to use for this piece, okay? And then here at the very bottom right there where it says Steinway piano, that's the piano part that we put together. So just for fun, because this is a little gift that a lot of people love to enjoy, let's take a listen to the vocals by themselves. Let's hear what I was given, yeah? And we'll skip ahead here a little bit.
너는 내 삶의 다시 뜬 햇빛 어린 시절 내 꿈들의 재림
Skipping ahead.
투명해져 저기 멀리서 바다가 들려 꿈을 건너서 숲을 너머로
Skipping ahead.
Take my hands now You are the cause of my euphoria yeah, 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 yeah. Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
So you've got your main vocal here singing the chorus, right?
Take my hands now You are the cause of my euphoria yeah, 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 yeah.
Then you have what they're calling the Adora BGVs. I'm not sure why they called it this, but that's what they called it, and here it is. Oh, that's what it is. So then he actually had his co-writer sing the backgrounds there. That is actually the woman that he wrote this song with. It was Jordan and her, and then they wrote the song together. And then, of course, when it goes over to Big Hit and to the K-pop group, what generally tends to happen is the translator then will translate the lyrics, and the translator then actually gets a piece of the action. They get to say that they took part in writing the song, because essentially they do write the Korean lyrics, because although they try to translate the English lyrics that were written originally, there are some things that just don't translate, right? Or that they understand wouldn't work well in one language as opposed to the other. So then they have to make some creative decisions, and rightly so then deserve some of what we call the publishing, the writing, because they did have to kind of change things up. So that's a little lesson on how the writing works. But what else are we looking at here? What's this down here called vocal dubbing? What does this mean? Let's see.
You are the cause of my euphoria. Yeah, 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 yeah. Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
So that's what we call doubling, right? In general, when you have a song like this, you will have in the very beginning of the song what we call the solo vocal, or just the one vocal that's being sung. But in general, when we get to the chorus or the bigger part of a song, we like to layer vocals, and it's not just harmonies, right, other parts, but it's actually doubling, maybe tripling, sometimes even quadrupling 4 times the same vocal, right, to give it more power, to give it more strength. And then lastly, this 4th vocal it says ad-libs, right? Ad-libs means to improvise, to come up with something off the top of your head. Ad-libs in general get used more frequently close to the end of a song, and if I blow this up, you'll see that they're kind of scant here in the beginning, and then he really goes for it here in the end with a lot of his improvisation on the chorus. So then let's listen to a little bit of that soloed. Just hands now, right? And then, but then down here at the end, he really goes for it. Let's listen to some of that.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Right? And then let's hear that with the vocal in it so that you can hear what it's up against.
For real. Yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. You're for real. Yeah, 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 yeah. Close the door now. When I'm with you, I'm in utopia.
All right. And then everything together there.
'Cause I'm not euphoria. Yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. Euphoria. Yeah, 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 yeah. Close the door now. When I'm with you, I'm in utopia.
Right. And that's a really cool effect there. They have all those harmonies, all those vocals there at the very end for utopia, and then solo all of a sudden, just one vocal on the of utopia, right? Listen for that really quickly.
Right now, when I'm with you, I'm in utopia.
Right? Just clamps down on that one vocal. So how does that sound with everything in it, right? Let's hear that. And this is going to sound somewhat unmixed because since I arrange the strings and the piano, quite often the issue with the arranger is the arranger really likes to hear themselves, right? So I have my strings going crazy, 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 and the vocal's probably not quite where it should be, but that's okay because I didn't have to mix the record. These go on to get mixed elsewhere. So all that to say, you're going to hear the strings a little bit loud, so here we go.
'Cause I'm not euphoria. Close the door now. When I'm with you, I'm in utopia.
Okay, and now you hear why that was clamped down to one vocal, right? Because the music does the same thing. So for fun, why don't we see what's happening there too? Let's listen to how everything gets busy, and then that clamp down at the very end where it's very soft and it's just the piano. We'll go like here maybe. Okay, and there you have it. So, so how did this start? How did we do this, right? What did we start with? Did we do the strings first? Did we, where did everything come from? So as I said, the vocals all came first, right? And then we had to figure out, okay, how are we going to have the strings come in? We know we want it to be big at the end. How much of a presence should the strings really have in the beginning? And I think you can see visually the decisions that were made. I personally love cellos. So you see over here it says cellos. The first strings you ever hear in this piece are the cellos. I'm assuming probably somewhere right around the first pre-chorus or chorus, but we'll get to listening to that in a minute. And then I slowly layer. I have everything kind of laid out here with my violins at the top, and then a violin ensemble, violas at the top, and then this is some individual cello lines that come in at the end, a little out of order. Cellos, more cello line, because again, I love cellos. The basses, right, or the bassi that we call them, those are the big double basses, right, that handle our low end. Staccato, right, which is a fast and short hit on the note of the instrument, and that's just deep, 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 deep. And then there's even a harsher staccato called spiccato, where they're really just bang, 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 just really, really eclipsing the note right on the top with a lot of attack. So it's like an even sharper staccato. And then here, tremolo is my favorite thing. I became famous for this with all the records that I ended up doing with Jay Sean and Pitbull and the Chainsmokers. They all loved this string tremolo effect that I would do, where essentially what happens is the string tremolo is when the strings are moving back and forth on the same note. The bow is moving back and forth on the same note. So it's right? And then if you crescendo that, if you bring the volume up, then it sounds like a huge swell of sound. You're going, right? So we're going to listen to that really quick so you can hear what I'm talking about. I showed you this screen really quickly. This is called automation. And what you can see is that I have very, very low volume, less than -33 dB, and they go all the way up to -9, which at least in this session is quite loud. So let's listen to that effect real quick. Oh, wait, hold on. Yeah, it went back. That's okay. We'll move it here. Here we go. Right, and then off the note, okay? So that became sort of my thing. They always asked me to do my string tremolo in a lot of our songs. Here it is building up into a bit. I wonder if this is an even bigger thing or if it's the same. Right, so there it's more of an ensemble. And then also just to tell you, the last string group after this tremolo effect is a huge ensemble of strings. So I have all my individual strings up here, individual little sections, and then at the bottom is a huge ensemble sound all by itself. I could have just used that ensemble sound if I wanted, but the ensemble sound just by itself, although it sounds big, there's no nuance. You don't hear as much of the individual sounds of the string instruments like you do. So here's an example of that. So here is the big ensemble playing in the last chorus of the song. Right, so it sounds fairly good, but if I play this ensemble instead, you hear this. And let's add the spiccatos in there too. Here we go. And now that extra ensemble is just going to add what I call body, what we call beef, right? You're not going to hear it as much in your face as you hear these other string instruments, but you're going to feel like something is different, like something is more full. So we're going to go back and forth between playing it and with you hearing it and then with you not hearing it. I'll take it in and out so that you can hear the difference. Here it is without. And in. In. Right? I'm hoping that we can hear that. Yes, if I were to see your faces, I'm hoping that I would see some nods that you can hear that difference. Okay, so that's a little look at the strings. Lastly, the way this really started out was the piano. Right? He gave me the vocals. And he said, all right, I want you to listen to Utopia in the way that, Euphoria in the way that we did it. And then I want you to interpret it on your own with the piano. So that does mean that we are taking the original and playing with it. So the original, just a few bars of that is here. Okay, so you get the idea. So it's essentially 3 chords, right? Bum, bum, bum. That's me singing the bass notes, the low notes. Generally in music, when we're trying to figure out how a song starts out or what is inherent in the song, you usually pick out the bass first, and then that helps guide you in terms of figuring out the rest of the chord. So that's what I did. Here is a little bit of the piano in the very beginning. So it's those same chords, bum, bum, bum. It's just I'm not doing a lot of the rhythmic bum, 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 right? It's very soft and very easy. I wanted to do that to match Jungkook's vocal. He starts off very kind of soft and almost introspective, I think. So I wanted to create this kind of beautiful texture for him to sing on top of. And what's great about this actually is after we did the piano and string arrangement, Jungkook heard it, and he actually came in to re-record certain parts because he was so moved by it that he wanted to do the arrangement justice. So the version that got released actually has different vocals than what you're looking at here, just in a few key places, not everywhere. So that was a real honor. That was great that he jumped in on it and did that. So let's take a listen then, just to the arrangement as is for a minute, and let you hear how everything kind of comes together. I'm going to do it's what we call dropping the needle, like you drop the needle on a vinyl record, and kind of skip ahead to certain places so you can hear how everything built, okay?
너는 내 삶에 다시 뜬 햇빛 어린 시절 내 꿈들이 재림 모르겠어 이 감정이 뭔지 혹시 여기도 꿈속인 건지
Skipping ahead.
저기 멀리서 꿈을 건너서 숲을 너머로 선명해지는 그곳으로 가 My hands now You are the cause of my euphoria
So just low strings.
Euphoria Take my hands now You are the cause of my euphoria
Then the high strings come in. Just on octaves.
Close the door now When I'm with you I'm in utopia
And here's those staccato strings.
운명 같은 하나만은 달라 아픈 너의 눈빛이 나와 같은 곳을 보는 걸 When you please stay in dreams 저기 멀리서 바다가 들려 꿈을 건너서 숲을 넘어라
So here I had a line going almost against his vocal, and let's listen to that really quickly because that was something I actually quite enjoyed doing here. So let's just listen to the arrangement right there. And I believe it's this line that I enjoyed so much. Let me check it out. And it's very funny. I always find this so interesting when you're doing string arrangements with plugins, with string plugins. What's very fascinating to me is that on their own, they sound very electronic and very fake, right? And yet somehow when everything mixes together, it's not as grating or as harsh or as electronic sounding. So again, try and listen for that melody, the ba-da-da-da, and see if it still sounds electronic to you or if it just sounds organic and real. Here we go. Right? It's very, very tricky. It's something that it's a really cool trick that our ears play on us somehow. When everything mixes together, it's not as harsh. It doesn't sound as fake. So let's go ahead and just drop the needle a little bit further in the rest of this, and then we're going to call it a day.
꿈을 건너서 숲을 넘어가 선명해지는 그곳으로 가 Take my hands now You are the cause of my euphoria Take my hands now
And then that you've already heard. And lastly, I did do an homage to the chun 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 in the original production with the spiccato strings. He wanted me to do it as well, which I loved. I kind of snuck it in there. This. And there you have it, and then it gets all soft at the end and really thoughtful and cute, and that's it. And it came out last summer as a gift to all of BTS's fans, and the reaction was, it's always fun to watch fan reactions and see how they feel about it. That was a really nice and rewarding. So that is a look into a real BTS session. I was honored to be a part of it. I'm honored to be here to come and talk about it. I will share a little bit as well, very, very quickly, about the songwriting major at Berklee, and that is here. We, with us, there is no application to declare to get into the major. We have about 350 or so right now, 70% of them are female. It's not possible to minor in songwriting, although as you saw with Hae Joo's presentation, pro music students can specialize in songwriting nonetheless. There's a lot of great gender parity in the faculty. We're almost equal male and female, as well as diverse in terms of race, Latino, African American, and you write in almost every single songwriting class that we offer. That's very writing heavy based. It's also highly collaborative. That's something that you're going to find in any major at Berklee, especially though pro music and songwriting. They're highly collaborative majors. So if you come in with this idea that you're going to be your own artist and do your own thing and write all your own songs, that's fine, but there's going to be a heavy stress to help you grow and learn through collaboration and through what you learn by working with others. And then, as we mentioned before, the students go on to multiple career paths. We've had quite a few amazing songwriting majors go on to serious success. One of them, who was also there at my time, at my time in Berklee, was Justin Tranter, one of the biggest pop songwriters in the world right now. He wrote Hands to Myself for Selena Gomez, Centuries for Fall Out Boy, Believer for Imagine Dragons. He's just a monstrous songwriter. Here's a look really quickly at some of our faculty. Cara Dioguardi is a famous hit songwriter. Pat Pattison is our star lyric teacher. He came up with the lyric curriculum at Berklee and is still here. And he's gotten much praise by many of the former singer-songwriters who came to Berklee, such as John Mayer, who has specifically shouted out Pat. Rodney Alejandro down here is our newest faculty member, and he heads up a lot of our more advanced production work. He used to work with the band The Script, which was really big in the early 2010s. Moving on, you see there's some lyric writing, songwriting, some arranging, some music production courses where you work actually in a DAW, whether it's Logic, Ableton, or Pro Tools. Then there's specialized advanced classes, portfolio classes, and then of course a business course so that you can understand the business behind what you do, publishing companies, PROs, things like that. And here's just some of our famous alumni. That's Justin Tranter, who I mentioned earlier. Naturally, Charlie Puth took some songwriting courses while he was an MP&E major at Berklee. John Mayer, of course, Gillian Welch, and Amy Allen, who has written some pretty serious hits more recently for Halsey. So a pretty diverse group of alumni. And I highly, highly recommend our major. Like I said before, it's not just the writing, we also have the production in there too. We believe that every songwriting major needs to understand how to record themselves and produce themselves in addition to all the writing that they're doing. So with that, I don't know if I went over or went under, but thank you very much. I appreciate it. I talk too much, I know, but thank you. And I'm going to hand it back over to Tim.
Thank you very much, Jonathan, for your presentation. I think that was fun. And myself being a Korean descent, that I really, truly enjoyed the session that you just shared. And I just want to thank both Hae Joo and Jonathan for presenting wonderful content on K-pop music today. And now we want to open up for questions from the audience. If you guys have any, please use the chat window to send us questions on any of the materials presented today or anything Berklee in general. So let me just skim through this chat window. Okay. Well, as we wait for questions from the audience, maybe I have a question to ask to Hae Joo to kick off this Q&A session. In your opinion, why do you think K-pop music is continuing to attract the global audience? I think that's one of the, obviously, the general questions.
Right, yeah. So as I try to point out in my talk, I think that K-pop is just so multisensory. I think the music is infectiously catchy. I mean, when all is said and done, the gateway, the entryway is music, right? And the music is always, not always, but so much of the time, it's very good. It's very, it's digestible. It's accessible, and once you get into the music, then there's usually a dance. And just think back to Gangnam Style, and everyone was doing that horsey dance and posting their own cover versions on YouTube. So there's a dance, and then once you get in there, there's like a whole world. And then because it lives on social media, it spreads so quickly. But I think that it just being so multisensory, it's very colorful, it's visual, it's very highly, it's very well produced. It's a very attractive type of music. It's a very attractive type of product. So.
Yeah, and then one of the things that shocked me was that most of these Korean music that are released, these are in Korean lyrics. They're not necessarily in English or any other foreign language. And I wonder, why such a momentum in terms of the fandom? Is there anything that you could share on that?
Yeah, so I think I guess BTS would be a really good example for this question. For BTS, when a song comes out, the fan base, they they do translations in real time, like, within an hour, so there's a whole network in place. So the fandom is very, very, it's very organized. There's like a philanthropy arm, there's a marketing arm, and so the fans are just, they're very dedicated and they're very good with the translations. So they're putting these translations out there, like, really in real time. So those translations get circulated. And I think that, once you like a group or once you like the music, you seek out the translation and you find out more about that artist, and then you sort of develop your own sort of relationship with that artist. And I think, it's not such a foreign idea to think that we can like something that's not in our language, right? I mean, I think of Edith Piaf, and I would sing that song, and I studied French in my years, and I would look up the translation, and so I don't see that as a deterrent. And I think even when Gangnam Style came out, people were rapping those bits in Korean without even knowing what they meant, so I don't really see that as being something that would, deter people. I mean, just look at opera, Italian opera. I mean, we consume Italian opera, German lead, so.
Yeah, cool. All right. And then, along the same line, the BTS's latest track, Dynamite, that was completely in English,
right,
as opposed to the previous tracks that were in Korean.
Mm-hmm.
And, maybe the audience may wonder, why do you think, there was such a shift? And then how did that, maybe impacted, charting at number one on Billboard charts? I don't know.
Yeah, so I will say that I think that having released Dynamite in English did help them to achieve the number one. But I think that BTS did not approach that song with this agenda, thinking, oh, we really want to, let's try to write one in English this time so we can actually, make a big mark. I don't think that was the case. When the song was sent to them by David Stewart, I think he's based in the UK, they liked it and they made a few tweaks, and they thought it worked. Instead of translating those lyrics, they just kept it and they kind of tweaked it into tweaked a little bit, in sort of maybe more digestible English. I don't know what sort of tweaking was there, but they just liked it and they decided to keep it. But I do think that it did help them get that radio play, but then again, you see this organic relationship where the other two categories are so huge, right? Because the fandom is so huge with the streaming and the sales, that they're calling in to the radio stations and they're requesting it, right? So it's sort of feeding each other. And so I would say also that Dynamite did hit number one, but BTS also has several songs that did chart on the Hot 100, not number one, but within the top 10 that were in Korean. So that's all to say that BTS became global stars by singing songs in Korean. So I think that Dynamite is a special case, and I think that it did help them. But I would say that that's not why they wrote it in English.
Okay, cool. Thank you. And Jonathan, I have a question for you. So what is the difference between writing for K-pop versus Western pop? Is there any difference that you felt when you were working with K-pop acts?
Oh man, I mean, I'll admit I wasn't in the room when Euphoria was written, but I have written for Taemin and SHINee and NCT 127 before as well. And I'll say this: there's a specificity to Western pop that is very, I would almost say snobbish to a certain degree, that we all willingly take part in. They say that it's easy to kind of break everywhere else in the world, but that it's the American pop is like a very specific sort of thing that you have to hit. So I found, knowing that we were going to be doing K-pop sessions, I found that there was more freedom to explore things and explore music and songwriting in a way that I would not with American pop music, because with American pop music, it was like, oh man, is this chord progression market friendly? Are these melodies market friendly? Like, are we hitting American pop? Whereas with the K-pop that we were doing, especially in the beginning when we were first starting to work with Taemin and NCT 127, we felt like we were throwing a bunch of different things at the wall and just seeing what could stick. So we wrote some songs that were like almost bluesy, that had like nothing to do with what NCT 127 were interested in. But the more like happy and upbeat and like super fun stuff and very rhythmic stuff was the stuff that they responded to. And that was great, because I don't know how well those things would have done in American pop, but for me, it felt like a release, and a relief as well, to kind of open up and not feel like I'm constrained by this American market. So it felt very open-minded process to me.
Okay. All right. And I noticed that there are many non-Korean writers that are involved in K-pop production. And I don't know, I just wanted to kind of ask you both, like, actually. I don't know what the percentage of the writers in terms of the K-pop music, and how are they getting opportunities to do the work in K-pop music industry, and is it something that the labels and production companies in Korea are, constantly reaching out to the um, to everyone globally, all the writers, and maybe they're pitching songs, and they're just choosing randomly out of those songs that they receive. I just wanted to kind of ask you this question so that the audience may, they may be interested in writing for K-pop, and they may not know the way to navigate through it, to get an opportunity. So I just wanted to kind of, I know that Jonathan, you mentioned something about DJ Swivel, working with you, but if you've heard anything from DJ Swivel, even, how he managed to get that opportunity for himself.
Yeah. I mean, he had quite an amount of success already with the chain smokers, right? And he's also a really good salesperson, because he was known as a producer. He didn't write for the chain smokers, but he sold himself as a writer producer, along with his kind of group of what we call top line writers. And essentially, Big Hit and SM contacted us, like when we worked with Taemin and NCT 127. That was all Big Hit and SM calling our management company, and flew a bunch of us over. I didn't go, but a whole contingent of producers and writers all flew to South Korea to do writing camps, to do week-long writing camps, where they just wrote and wrote and wrote and wrote and wrote, and then pitched to various different groups and solo acts there. I believe, I also believe that Big Hit and SM footed the bill,
Mhm.
which is pretty significant, because that does not necessarily happen with a lot of writing camps here in the U.S. You want to go to a writing camp for Rihanna and you actually get called in to do it, great, but you better, do all the travel and the hotels yourself, right? Whereas Big Hit and SM took care of that kind of stuff with our group.
Yeah, and I would say that I don't know of what the percentage is. I think you're asking,
Mhm.
but I do know that there is a significant presence of not non-Korean talent that's doing some of the writing. I think it differs by agency, because I know that SM has quite a presence or relationships with a group in Sweden. So they have a lot of songwriters out there, and they do writing camps there. And there are K-pop groups that are working with, kind of bigger names, like Teddy Riley is sort of kind of in there in the whole K-pop scene as well. So that there is outsourcing, and they're not just writing within their own teams. And as you know, the entertainment agencies, the big three, JYP, YG, and SM, and now Big Hit, there are these these sort of big hubs, one stop, right? They're like they do everything, the managing, the labeling, the record producing, all that. So definitely there's outsourcing going on. So the talent is coming in from all over the world. But I'd have to research what that percentage is for each agency.
Okay, thank you. And we have a question from the audience, which will be the last question because we're running out of time. So the question comes from India. Do you think that K-pop will open the doors for other Asian music industries to become mainstream or gain more global recognition?
Yeah, I think that it will. In a real way. That's what made me talk about Parasite, that film, because it really, it broke this sort of wall, right? The American Academy of Motion Pictures, and for a non-English film to gain that award, I think that it sets it kind of opens the door a little. Right. So I think that, as long as there's good music and good content coming out of wherever, that the conversation on diversity in the US right now is going on. I'm not saying that it'll happen overnight, but I think that it will, the doors will open. And the artists are out there. I mean, it's not like there are, BTS is the first high profile K-pop Asian group, obviously. I mean, Far East Movement also was very big 10 years ago. They charted #1 with like a G6. And so that talent is out there. I think that, since Parasite won, there are other sort of Korean American movies or Asian American movies. There's a movie called Minari that's being kind of talked about for the Oscars. And so I think that conversation is widening. So I think that it does make an impact in kind of like the public awareness, but also, right, the music has to be good, right? So
yeah,
right.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for everything. And actually, this concludes today's event. I just want to thank everyone for being here with us today. And just as a reminder, we have more exciting virtual events coming up on different topics. So please make sure to visit us online for more information. And if you have any questions about Berklee in general, please feel free to email us at admissions@berklee.edu. And we hope to see many of you again in our future events. All right. Thank you and see you next time.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye. Thanks, everybody. This was fun.
Take care.
It was awesome. Good night. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.